Good evening, and welcome to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm here with Justin. I'm Adam Wright, your host. Brian is out tonight, so we have a lot that has gone on, so why don't we get started? So we have the Patriots, who just got eliminated. They lose to the Miami Dolphins 22-12. So this is a big thing because this is their first season without a winning record since 2000. So that's 20 years. This is a very long time.
Yeah.
And now we have them also missing the playoffs for the first time in 10 seasons. So these are all historic numbers for such a historic dynasty that are all coming to an end. It's crazy to think about this with a Bill Belichick coach team, just a season removed from Tom Brady leaving. What's next for the Patriots, Justin?
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of things they could do. And they can start building from the draft. They can go out in free agency. Or they can just go full-on rebuild, wait a few years, and then they can start contending again. I believe what they should do is a little bit of both building through the draft and building through free agency. The reason I say that is because I want them to get a wide receiver, but due to Bill Belichick's history with wide receivers through the draft, they haven't necessarily planned out for the better. So I believe they should get a veteran wide receiver that has been a proven commodity in this league. Mainly, I would go for Allen Robinson, who would be perfect for that system and who is disgruntled at the state of the Chicago Bears right now. So I think he'd be ideal for a future quarterback to work there, if not Cam Newton currently. Also, they can also, if they don't like Cam Newton right now, they can also get Phillip Rivers or the person you were going to bring up, Marcus Mariota.
Right.
And they can also get Carson Wentz.
Yeah, so there's a lot of options at quarterback, certainly, where they could go. They could look to the draft. They could try and trade for somebody like a Marcus Mariota, who we'll get to in just 1 second. There is also Carson Wentz. He has been paid a lot, so to take his contract with his skill set, I'm not sure about. There's the same issue with players like a Matthew Stafford and Dak Prescott, who they could also look at, who will be high priced. These are players who they could pick up, but I'm not. Number one, should they? And number two, will they? And I know Bill Belichick as a lifelong New England Patriots fan, and I know that Bill Belichick does not like paying top-tier money to players who have not earned it yet. And I think he's going to look at a Matthew Stafford and a Dak Prescott and say, you guys don't deserve that money. And I think he's going to say the same thing about, say, a Carson Wentz. The player I look at is who they look to bridge between in this little rebuild is a player named Marcus Mariota. All right. So he was a Tennessee Titan where he was drafted, and he played a few years there up until he was a free agent, and then he was let go. He's fairly young. He's about 27 years old. His play style matches exactly what they're looking for right now with a Cam Newton type dual threat quarterback. He can throw it better than Cam right now. He's 4 years younger than him. He has a season from back in his Titans days, back in 2016, where he threw for 26 touchdown passes. He fits in perfectly to their run-first scheme. The only issue with them is he's not going to be a free agent this offseason unless they release him. He still has 1 year left in his deal after this season. So they're going to have to acquire him in a trade, most likely if they pick him up. So I think he's a very solid option at first. I actually didn't even think about this guy. I had a buddy call up, and we were talking about what the Patriots should do from here on out. And he's watching now I was doing finals, so I wasn't watching the Thursday night football game. Was it Monday night? Thursday night
for the Chargers and Raiders.
Right. So they were facing off each other, and Derek Carr leaves the game early. So their backup Marcus Mariota comes in, and he has himself a game. He threw for a touchdown and interception, yes, but he threw a decent amount of yards. He completed passes. He can make plays with his legs. I believe he ran for a touchdown or two.
I believe he threw a touchdown. I'm not sure about running.
But his rushing numbers were solid.
I think he did rush for a touchdown, now that I think about it.
He has a season under his belt where he threw for 26 touchdowns. So we know he's capable of it. He can throw it. He can run it. That's exactly what the Patriots need right now. And if they're going to build a roster around a quarterback who they eventually could draft and inherit this roster, they're going to need somebody to help all of these players develop. Say if they get these pass catchers that they're going to need, that we'll talk about in just a second, who they need in the future and in drafts, free agency, they're going to need somebody to help them sort of develop. And that's the whole reason for a bridge quarterback, so they could we could build a roster around them, and then they could wind up, and then say when you have what's his name, a Alex Smith on a Chiefs roster where they draft a Tyreek Hill he could help develop. And then they have a Travis Kelce, and then they have all of these. They have a great offensive line. Their defense was great for that whole time. Then they drafted Patrick Mahomes, and he sits behind him for 1 year. He comes in, bam, Super Bowl contenders. So it's kind of that sort of setup that teams should look at. I know I've preached bridge quarterbacks for the past few weeks, but I'm telling you, from looking at track records of how this works, it works. And so their needs, addressing that right now, they're at quarterback. They obviously need a quarterback eventually, but that's what we're looking at. At the running game, I think they actually have one of the better running games in the league. It's actually pretty underrated. They don't have that one bell cow guy, but that's almost better because now they have all these different options they could go with rather than lean on one guy like a Dalvin Cook or a Derrick Henry who's going to get hurt eventually. So I think what they need, their defense is fine. They could use a few patch-ups here and there in the run game, but their secondary is almost elite. In fact, it is elite. So what they should get is pass catchers and a quarterback, and maybe patch up the offensive line, maybe just a tad. But overall, if you look at it, this roster isn't that bad, but they certainly need that one player, that one number one guy you go to, pass catching. And eventually, like we've said, we're going to need a quarterback sometime down the road.
Yeah.
So they're not far off, I think.
Yeah, you guys are completely fine. It's just when your offense gets stymied, it makes the defense look worse than it actually is, because then the defense is on the field more than it should be. If you're on the field for like 30, 40 minutes, it can get tiring after a while, and therefore a 5-yard gain can go for 15, a 15-yard gain can go for 30. Next thing you know, it could be a touchdown just because your defense is tired. I believe if the offense got some pass catchers that could move the chains and actually make them score more points, the defense could be very good to excellent again, like last year. And they'll be playoff contenders, no problem, because I believe they have the scheme in place to do it. They have the skills at the running back position. Damian Harris is underrated right now because he's doing quite fine in the position he's in, despite Sony Michel being on the roster. They can go with that 1-2 punch right there, and they'll be fine. The only thing they really need to fix is the quarterback position and the wide receiver position. As far as the line, it's doing fairly well with Isaiah Wynn at left tackle and Andrews at center, I believe.
Yes, at center.
Maybe another right tackle would solidify that.
They have Joe Thuney, too. Don't forget him. So they have they actually have a pretty solid offensive line.
Mhm.
It wasn't quite as good last year because Isaiah Wynn hadn't developed quite yet, and they were still trying to transition from Trent Brown to Isaiah Wynn.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
Isaiah Wynn coming off the Achilles tear. And we talked about the Achilles tears a few minutes ago
Mhm.
with Kevin Durant's torn Achilles. Those aren't easy to come back from, and usually
Yeah.
when you do come back, you're not the same. And so far, he's looked good. So I give him credit where it's due. So
Yeah.
you
I
like
I think the decision now is, as far as quarterback, do you guys feel like we can win right now and we just need to get like a quarterback that can help us maintain that? Or do we want to go on the route of getting a bridge quarterback so we can draft one for the future? Are you guys thinking about right now, or are you thinking about the future if I'm the Patriots? So,
so. So as a Patriots fan right now, I'm all about win now. And yes, maybe will be competitive, and yes, maybe we might not win it all, but at
mhm,
least we're putting a team on the field, a product out there that's actually watchable, unlike this season. And then at the same time the build towards a contending team at the same time. I know this is a correlation. I know this is going between different sports, but if you look at the Celtics,
Celtics.
they had from 2013 up to say 2017, 18, they they weren't necessarily contending teams, but they were always in it. They were competitive, they were winning games, they were entertaining, and they were able to transition that all the way up to being contenders. Now, they're still working on winning the championship,
Yeah.
but they're they're one of the contending teams in the league, and they're going to get better. So I know it's different sports, but I feel like it is, especially if you're Bill Belichick and the alleged greatest quarterback of all time, then I feel like you should be able to achieve that. And I think it starts with Marcus Mariota, and it starts with drafting well. I want them to draft a wide receiver, but I'm also scared at the same time because they never work out for Belichick. Maybe draft a tight end and then sign a wide receiver. I know you mentioned Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
So I think they're in better shape than we think they are.
Yeah, I think they'll be just fine. But as far as building while contending, you would have to overachieve while the team you're trading with has to underachieve. Their expectations would have to go from championship level down to like lottery level, and your team has to go from like lottery to playoff to contending caliber team. So if you go on that route, you would have to go like Houston. They were a playoff team, and now look at where they are. So I think it's doable. You just have to find the right team to do that with.
Right. They have to pull all the right strings.
Mhm.
And if Bill Belichick is the guy, then he'll he'll find a way to figure that out. All right. So transitioning into the Bills. So one team gets eliminated and one team, while the other in the same division rises up. We have the Bills. They win the AFC East. So
Congrats.
we have a rising team coming up here. They win their first division title in quarter a century. 1995, their last division title. So that's 25 years. That was 25 years ago. This was, I believe, during four
One.
their
Yeah.
four Super Bowl runs, the four falls of Buffalo. We have they move and now with a loss for the Steelers, they now move up to the 2 seed. So not only did they win the division this year,
Mhm.
they're probably going to win out and get the 2 seed.
I hope they went out for my team's case because I need Miami to lose and Buffalo's facing them, so I need Miami to lose.
Yeah, see, I think Baltimore will make it. But as for
Mhm. Yep.
the Bills, they have a great young quarterback in Josh Allen who made a
Yep.
Pro Bowl who they just announced made a Pro Bowl this year 30 touchdown passes, just 3 from the franchise record set by Jim Kelly. We have they won more games than the prior season where they also made the playoffs. They have a great head coach who's led them to the playoffs 3 out of his 4 seasons since being there. So this is a team that's looking up. They acquired a great young wide receiver who's up and coming in Stephon Diggs and is looking like he's blossoming ever since he left the Minnesota Vikings. So there's a lot of things to look at with this Bills team. So there's Stephon Diggs, but first let's touch on the improvement of Josh Allen, because looking at his statistics from the past few seasons, this is a guy who's gotten better and better every year, and it's beautiful to watch. So what do you think of that?
I think he's gotten very impressive. I think he looks better from the pocket. I think he looks better throwing. I don't like the times where he fumbles. I think he still has a problem with that. But I think he'll improve like he always does, like he's been doing recently. I think his accuracy is better. His completion percentage is better. I think the talent around him has been elevated thanks to one particular player, and therefore his stats look amazing and the team's winning more. I believe the team as a whole will be the dominant team for years to come. I believe him as a talent, top 10 quarterback or top 5 right now, depending on where you rank him. But there's no doubt he's top 10.
Yeah, I agree. He could be top 5, top 5, top 8, around that area. He's a player who's, and I pointed this out yesterday with you, Justin. His average yards per attempt has gone up, but at the same time, his completion percentage has come up. His passer rating has come up. All his stats have just elevated. And you would think with a completion percentage that goes up that his average yards per attempt have gone down. But no, it's the opposite. They've gone up, and so is his passer rating. So he's just there's something he's doing right here where he's become a more accurate passer, which we never thought he would be coming out of this draft. He's just overall just improved. And yes, we talk about the talent that's around him, and I believe that's them, the Bills organization, credit to them, putting him into inheritable environment, a team for him to inherit, where he could succeed at his best and put him in the best spot to do so, right? So, and we talk about bridge quarterbacks, him transitioning into being able to inherit a good roster, to be in a good environment. This is it. This is a textbook version of that. And we're seeing this quarterback year in and year out grow before our eyes. It's amazing to look at.
I disagree, because he didn't have that necessary bridge, because Tyrod Taylor left before he got there. I think the next quarterback was interception machine. I just don't know his name right now.
Nathan Peterson.
Nathan Peterson. Yeah, that guy right there. Oh my God. I remember 2018, the first game the Ravens played was against the Bills. I was like, yes. Because I think he threw like 2 or 3 picks against us that game, and we won like 47-3.
Right. So he wasn't a bridge. He didn't get a bridge quarterback. So he didn't have that. But what I'm getting at is he had a team to inherit, rather than just being thrown into the deep end without any sort of roster, and he's supposed to play well against pro defensive linemen.
Yeah,
that's terrifying. We're looking at Joe Burrow get his teeth kicked in. He tore his ACL. You have Carson Wentz, who tore his ACL early on in his career as well. Justin Herbert is Justin Herbert's a good example for inheriting a good roster. He's doing well, but you see it all the time. These quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, for example, they come in, they have good promise, and then they just get ruined by a bad situation.
Yeah, you could see the talent with Sam Darnold. It's just the situation around him isn't ideal with the coaching and with the players. And as far as Herbert is concerned, I thought you were about to say he was injured, and the only thing injury about him is his hair.
Yeah, got his hair cut off. Now he's not playing as well.
Yeah, he looks like an 8th grader to me.
He looks our age. He really does. And we're what? I'm 21. You're 20.
19.
19. So he looks our age. It's really, yeah. He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And his plays dipped since then. So scientifically speaking, it's science. You got to have the hair.
Yeah.
It's like a Samson type story.
The power's in his hair?
Oh, definitely. 100%. He hasn't played well since. So transitioning into the team that's built around him, let's start with that final piece that has seemed to put everything together. We're going to revisit the Stephon Diggs trade. So Diggs did have a history of being upset, and he claimed he was being underutilized when back in his Viking days.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of agree with him. The way their offense was, it was a run first structure. He wasn't going to be the guy. It was more, they're going to give it to Dalvin Cook, and if not, then they'll throw it to Stephon Diggs, and they still have another receiver in Thielen they have to give it to. So he wasn't being used like he wanted to be used. Mm-hmm. Now, you could also say like he needs to be a good soldier. They want to win, but they were making the playoffs with him most years.
Yeah.
So it's not like they weren't competitive. So they trade Stephon Diggs last offseason for a first round pick, 3 additional late round picks. The Vikings also trade a late round pick. So what happens in the following year is it's actually pretty even ground for both sides. The Vikings used their first round pick on a wide receiver named Justin Jefferson, who had a Pro Bowl year this year, one of only 5 rookies in the past 20 years to make it in.
Congrats.
So great for him. Great stuff. 1,000-yard season, 7 touchdowns. Great young player.
First rookie to do it since
it looks pretty even.
Vikings.
So the popular opinion is that it's an even trade, which it kind of is. But for argument's sake, who are we taking as the winner of this trade?
For argument's sake, if you're going with the Bills, you're looking at wins and playoffs in short-term future. Long-term, I'm looking at the Vikings because of the rookie contract right now, and because I think he'll only progress and go up as Thielen declines. So he's already a 1,000-yard receiver right now. I think he'll just get better and better and better, and the stats will show for
it. Okay. So I actually have the Bills winning this trade.
Mm-hmm.
Not because it was a fair trade receiver for receiver, which it is, but it's because they looked at the wrong spot to improve at. They took away their top receiver. They did replace him with another receiver, but the main issue is still there, that they have a mediocre quarterback there in Kirk Cousins, who is still being mediocre, and they're at best just making the playoffs, winning a game, and then getting out. So, they're addressing the wrong spot. It's like, Justin Jefferson is gonna be good, but is that what they want? Just a receiver who's just gonna buy into the system where they just get outed in the first or second round if they even make the playoffs? So I think the Bills won this. They went for the championship, and they're a contending team in the AFC. They could actually beat the Chiefs this year.
All right. So before I continue, I gotta ask: instead of drafting Justin Jefferson, would you take Jalen Hurts then?
So I think what they should have done was they should have kept Stephon Diggs, and they should have tried to make Stephon Diggs They should have made Stephon Diggs happy.
I don't know how you do that.
They should have given him. They should have transitioned into more of a passer-friendly offense. They should try and get a better quarterback. They should have tried to use, let's say, I love Dalvin Cook, but maybe they trade him and they get maybe a first-round pick out of him, and they contribute to this run-first offense. They could still get a good running back out of it. They could have Alexander Madison step up, who's a very capable running back. But I mean, what I want is for them. It's kind of blowing it up, but I don't think what they have is worthy of winning it all. It's just being competitive. And what I ask for the Vikings is to what end? So I think they have the pieces there. Well, they had the pieces there. They do still have Justin Jefferson, but Kirk Cousins clearly isn't the answer. Get him out of there. Find a new quarterback, and then maybe transition into more of a passer-friendly offense where receivers are playing well, like how Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs are playing there. They have a good young quarterback in Josh Allen. The Bills are doing it right now. And if they don't win it this year, they might win it next year. And things are looking up in Buffalo. Things are not looking up in Minnesota. With the amount of talent they have and with the way they are playing, they're setting themselves up for utter disappointment. I mean, how can you even be disappointed when you're not even setting yourself up for success? There's no disappointment. Disappointment would mean that they expect to win, but they don't even expect to win. They just expect to be competitive and have Dalvin Cook put up great fantasy numbers for the 12-year-old fantasy boys.
12-year-old
in their leagues, aka me. But you know what I'm trying to say.
I get it.
My opinion, my honest opinion, Bills win this trade. It's not really close. Yes, they got a new younger Stephon Diggs, but they're not going anywhere. They're just in football territory. So Bills win this one.
Yeah, I can see why you say that. I think long term they might want to invest in a quarterback if they feel like Kirk Cousins can't get the job done. I feel like that's a fair assumption. But I think Justin Jefferson was still a good pickup for the trade, and he's giving more or less equal value to what Stephon Diggs is doing, considering I think he has more touchdowns. I think it's 7-5.
I agree. They got a younger player who is still great. Yeah. So they could somewhere down the road transition away from Kirk Cousins. But the way it's looking right now, it doesn't look like it almost looks like they don't want to. They kind of just want to keep being competitive, feed the ball to Dalvin Cook a million times until he gets hurt. And then, to what end? A couple upsets over the Saints isn't going to do anything if you don't win the Super Bowl at the end of the day.
True, but everybody upsets the Saints. I don't get it.
No, it's always the Vikings who do it. Have you seen recent years?
I think it was one year it was the 49ers. The next year the year before that it was the Seahawks. Now it's the Vikings, and then it was the Rams, then the Vikings again. They just struggle when it comes to making the Super Bowl.
And that they have talented rosters.
Yeah, they have stacked rosters. There should be no excuse.
Michael Thomas. This year they have Emmanuel Sanders backing him up.
Yeah.
Jared Cook. Yikes. And they can't do anything with it. I don't know how people try to say Drew Brees is the greatest of all time if he can't even get past the Vikings with Michael Thomas.
Well,
if Brady had Michael Thomas, let me tell you, it'd be over.
In my defense, look at 2007. They made the Super Bowl. They just didn't win it.
But we don't talk about the year. All right. Yeah. So
move on.
Let's transition into segment 3. So speaking of who should draft who, Jets may not get their choice of who they want. They get their first victory, but at what cost? They lose control of the number one pick. So they beat the Rams 23-20, which is a great upset, great game, good for them. But at the same time, now the Jaguars have control to get the number one pick and ultimately draft the prized number one guy, Trevor Lawrence. So the big question is, what are their options now? So we have a few that are listed here. So we have that we could trade the pick and build around Darnold. They could trade the pick and trade Darnold too. They could trade the pick, they could keep the pick and they could trade Darnold. And they can keep the pick and keep Darnold. So I'm not sure what you would prefer, but I think what I would do is I would trade the pick, try to get a haul for them, maybe a first or another trade back, get another first round, so that they still have 2 first rounders. They could get a second out of it and maybe a third, and they build around Darnold as, like we said. I know I preach the hell out of this, but they use Darnold as at the very least a bridge quarterback. They could build around Darnold, and if it turns out Darnold isn't the answer, then they could go into the draft and draft a quarterback. So what will they do? That's another question, because the Jets are the Jets, and they're gonna jet, and they always make the wrong choices. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Well, the Jets are going to be the Jets, so there's really not much we can do for them. But since you took that option, I was going to say, if you want to look at the best way to get picks and just build a contender, trade back and trade Darnold. I know I like Darnold. I think he's actually better than what most people give him credit for, but I believe in the situation he's in, he's not going to win. I believe that a team that actually needs a quarterback that could be a true contender with a good quarterback, i.e. the Patriots, but I don't think the Jets would allow that to happen. I believe they could get a first-round pick for Darnold easy because of the talent. So they can get like a first and a second for Darnold and then trade their first overall pick back. They have multiple picks for this year and next year. And so I believe they could build a talented roster this year because they have some pieces around him with Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims. I believe another wide receiver would help, and I think a running back should do the trick because I love Frank Gore, but he's 39. It's time to pick it up. It's time to go. Their defense needs some more upgrades, mainly in the secondary. You can tell that they missed Jamal Adams because he held everything together. You can tell that Greg Williams missed him because what are you doing against the Raiders sending an all-out blitz like that? So yeah, I believe trading Darnold and trading the pick away and hopefully store up draft picks.
Yeah, so I'll interpret what you said and go out on a limb to say, in other words, they need help everywhere.
Yes. I don't know one strength that the Jets have that you could say they're fine, keep it like that.
Which is why you could easily say, like I've said, I've preached this a lot, but this is a team where if they did lose this game and they wind up drafting Trevor Lawrence, there's no team for him to play around, and you could ruin this player.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't. So you could almost say that this is a blessing in disguise because they could have been setting themselves up for wild failure, but you still want to get the number one pick to have those options open, because maybe you could trade that number one pick. You would get a haul of draft picks for them, and you could build a roster, and then when your quarterback comes around, then you draft him. But now they don't have that option. I mean, the number 2 pick is still good, but you want to put yourself in the best position to win in the future, become a contending team, and not be the Jets that we know. We want to have them be the Jets who were from the beginning of time with Joe Namath, back when the dinosaurs were still around.
1963 was when they won the Super Bowl, I believe.
Wouldn't be surprised if the dodo birds were still existed. Didn't exist yet. This is
different.
Like, and they still haven't been able to do anything since then. They had a small window of time in the late 2000s to early 2010s where they made things interesting with Rex Ryan. They had a great defense. They had in his early on in his career, what was his name? Mark Sanchez. They were competitive. They made 2 AFC championships in a row.
Yep.
And then they fell off. It was all for nothing. So, they need to pick it up at some point. There has to be a point where you just stop being losers and actually like win something for once in their damn lives.
Yeah. But it needs like a talent, like a franchise changing moves. Like get rid of the head coach. He has got to go.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me that Gase is still there.
They were just probably hoping to get the number 1 overall pick. Now that that's not happened, I would fire him the moment the game is over.
Yeah, just fire him.
Do that.
I would have done it yesterday, to be honest. That's a team.
I would have done it
this
Sunday.
Team blows, and they've blown even like more so than usual now that Gase is on the team. And this is you just look at all the players who have been in Gase's system and then left. They were better for it when they left. Ryan Tannehill has been an MVP candidate at times. Robbie Anderson is the number 1 receiver right now over DJ Moore over in Carolina. It says something when players who leave that system are playing better and are playing well, in fact. So they have a lot of work to do, in other words. So it's a very bad, yikes.
I guess the only thing we can say is congrats on the victory. I mean, that's probably the only victory you're going to get this season, no matter how bittersweet it is.
Yeah, it made my heart melt a little bit to hear how happy Frank Gore was to win their first game. He's like, I just can't go out like that. I just wanted to win a game, and I'm happy they did it now. So I'm happy for him, but just know, Frank Gore, you cost your team the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence.
So you're telling me that your heart grew like three
sizes.
Yes. 3 sizes when you heard what Frank Gore said.
I decided maybe the Jets, the Green Jets, aren't so bad.
Oh man, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him as a teammate. As a teammate, I'd be happy if I got Frank Gore his first one as a Jet.
Right. And I think it also, to add on to that, I think it also says something to just looking at the talent on that roster, or the lack thereof on that roster, for really how hard it is to go 0-16, and the reason why it's only happened twice before, ever. It's even when you try to lose, it's hard to lose. Like the suck for luck year when the Colts were almost openly tanking to get Andrew Luck, they still didn't even finish. I believe they finished 2-14. It's hard to go 0-16, and it feels like this is one of those years where they actually needed that, because there were the Jaguars who were almost equally as bad as the Jets this year. And with just one win under their belts for the Jaguars, that might just do it.
I don't think they were as bad as the Jets because they were playing a lot of teams close. The Jags were playing a lot of teams close that I didn't think they would. So, congrats to the Jaguars. You guys now have the number 1 overall pick. Hopefully, you guys get that franchise-changing quarterback that you guys need, and hopefully get some pieces to surround him.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We'll see what happens. They need a lot there, and it could be 5-10 years before they're anywhere near contention. As sad as it is to say, it's too bad Brian wasn't here, the Jets fan. He'd love to hear this conversation.
I'd be rubbing it in. I'd be laughing.
Oh, and he'd be trying to defend them. He tries to defend them all the time. I get that's his team, but at least come to terms with reality. As a Patriots fan, seeing that this team is on a downward trend, trying to go back up, at least I'm acknowledging that.
He tries to tell me that their O-line is good. I'm like, Mekhi Becton is good. The rest of it, not so much.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to transition into segment number 4, which is the fact that the Pro Bowl picks are in. Mm-hmm. So now we know who exactly is going to be in the Pro Bowl this year. So wonderful stuff. The imaginary Pro Bowl, because the Pro Bowl isn't happening. But it's nice to see like who is having that Pro Bowl caliber season. So I guess that's a fun thing to do. So I'm glad they did something, and they're going to do something for it. So here we have. So we're going to do a little activity where we're going to ask 3 questions of all these positions. We didn't pick all of them because if we picked all of them, then that's a lot of players. So we picked some of the more intriguing options. We have the quarterbacks, wide receivers. We have the running backs, the tight ends, and the cornerbacks. Okay? And we have 3 questions. We have who was snubbed, we have who deserved it, and who doesn't deserve it. Who was selected. So we'll start with the quarterbacks. So we have Wilson, Rodgers, Murray, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and Josh Allen. So first question out of this group. So who was snubbed of a Pro Bowl selection out of the quarterbacks?
Out of the quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill, without question, I believe he had the better season than Deshaun Watson. I don't look at just passing yards. I think just all around team success and just completions and a lot of other things I put into it. It's Ryan Tannehill, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Right. Yeah, it's not close, and I can't believe he wasn't picked. He had a career year. It's just another year down the drain for him, where it's not down the drain. He could win a Super Bowl, and it's not down the drain, but it's a year where he could have, out of all his years in the NFL, this would be the year he'd make the Pro Bowl, and he got snubbed. I don't think he deserves it over Watson. You can make a case. Watson doesn't have as much talent, so he's doing more with less. And Tannehill is armored with all this talent around him. But with the way the Pro Bowl is selected, they usually just go with stats. So I don't understand why Tannehill didn't get picked. But I'm actually going to go to the NFC for quarterbacks, and I'm going to say, and it's hard to argue with this list, but too bad I'm doing it anyways. I'm going to go with Tom Brady over Kyler Murray. I don't care what you think, but I'm going to listen to what you have to say that anyways.
Make your case.
Okay, so Tom Brady, how many passing touchdowns does he have? 32.
Mm-hmm.
How many does Kyler Murray have?
Not as many as Tom Brady.
26.
Mm-hmm.
He has more touchdown passes.
Yep.
He has more yards, more passing yards. I believe Brady's at just about around 4,000. And I'm pretty sure Kyler Murray is still around the 3,000 area.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's a rushing quarterback, so he does a lot with his legs too. But I think passing stats, if you can inflate your passing stats, that's more valuable than if you can run the ball. It's just look at Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. It's not close because his passing stats are inflated. He's always putting up great numbers, and he always goes deep in the postseason. He wins games. Lamar Jackson doesn't as much, and he's the more flashy player, and it makes him more valuable than Lamar Jackson. And I don't want to turn this into a Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. This is Brady versus Murray. This is personal. I'm a Brady fan.
Yeah.
Brady is better than Murray. He went to a new team in a new offensive scheme without any preseason, and he was in the MVP conversation, always ahead of Murray when he was in the conversation. And now Murray gets it over Brady. No, that doesn't fly with me. Brady is better. He's the GOAT. And I don't care what you think.
Oh my God.
But I do care because for argument's sake, so go ahead.
Oh my God. First things first, how much of this is actually like being unbiased and how much of this is actually you being a fan of Tom Brady here? Be honest with me.
It's both.
Oh my God.
But I'm making my case, and so you answer that.
To the passing yards, I tell you that Dak Prescott was one of the league leaders in passing yards. I think he threw like 4,900 yards, like around 5,000 yards. Didn't make the playoffs. So I would say that passing yards is not conducive to winning. That's my argument for that. Jameis Winston.
Touchdowns.
Jameis Winston, the same thing. 30-some touchdown passes. Did not make the playoffs.
He threw 30 interceptions, though.
How many touchdown passes did Dak throw last year? I think it was somewhere in that neighborhood.
Somewhere in the upper 20s.
Yeah. So I don't think I think leadership, play style, and accuracy, and just all around being a QB does it for you, whether it's running or passing. Lamar Jackson, I'm not even going to continue this, but the fact that you can compare Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray to like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes is not fair. Kyler Murray's not even on the same level as Lamar. Lamar Jackson as a whole is 28-7 as a starter. So we're not even going to get into that debate because that's just not even fair to Kyler Murray. What I will say to you is this. Kyler Murray has stepped up. He has improved. In the games he has lost, I believe he's played better than the games when Tom Brady has lost. Because some of those games Tom Brady was playing, against the Saints, 3 picks, 38-3 or 35-3. I believe it was 38-3.
It's a bad game. He's 43.
Bad game. He throws 3 picks, and I'm like, Brady, you can't be doing this to me. Just throw it to Mike Evans.
Well, if Kyler Murray were 43 and he faced the Saints with that roster, do you think he could have done anything? Do you think Lamar Jackson could have done anything?
Yes.
At age 43?
No, not at age.
Do you know the best quarterback season by a player 40 or older besides this season?
Brett Favre.
Do you know what the next best season is?
I think it's
himself.
It's
2017.
27. Oh, okay. I'm thinking about Brett Favre because he played for a real long time. That's why I'm saying Brett Favre.
Right. Brett Favre is next at age 40 as well, but he only threw for 30 touchdowns to 7 picks. He got them to a 12-4 record. They did make the AFC Championship, but he fell off right after that age 41 season. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl the year his age 41 season. And at age 43, he's playing at a Pro Bowl level where he should have it. And
it's not over Kyler.
And he's taking them to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Succaneers, the NFL's anus.
No, they're not. They are not. They are not the NFL's anus. They were not. They have a Super Bowl ring. They are not the NFL's anus.
They won one the Jets won a Super Bowl, and we just went on about them.
Detroit hasn't won a Super Bowl. You could call them the anus.
Well, yeah, but
they still are. They still are.
The Lions at least have talent. Like they've been competitive. They've had Barry Sanders. What if the nobody cares about the Bucs? The Lions are at least a historic team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think they had one of the greatest defenses of all time in 2002 with Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Brooks. It's not like they've been bad. It's just they've been inconsistent with Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston was a good QB, they make the playoffs. Because I think in 2016 they were 9-7 and almost made it.
Well, if Baker Mayfield was a good QB, they would have made the playoffs last year. And this year, Baker Mayfield's just okay, and they're making the playoffs because of their running game. Their passing game's just okay. Their defense is just all right. It's mostly their running game that's taking them there. But off topic, Tom Brady, over Kyler Murray, 100%. He got snubbed. He's the GOAT. He's 43, no preseason. He was just put into a new offensive scheme after 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just put that whole thing into context. All right.
I agree with you. My problem is I don't think it was egregious. You're saying this because you're a Brady boy. That's the only reason. The fact that you start off your argument with Tom Brady is the GOAT does not help your case. It makes you biased towards him. That's why I'm like, let me come to Kyler's defense here. It's not like Kyler was a scrub and couldn't play. Through like 5 or 6 games, he was an MVP caliber player.
So does it not prove more that he's the GOAT, that he's putting up these stats at age 43, the best season for a quarterback age 40 or older, at the oldest to play, the best to play at age 43. He wanted to play till age 45. I thought possibly, even as a Brady fan, looking at that, but he'd probably be a backup or something. That's just being realistic. And now he's 43, and like I feel like I'm not even worthy of being on the same planet as him. It's like, holy crap, I'm ready to take my pants off.
Stop it.
It's unbelievable.
Stop it. There are kids watching. Anyway, let's continue on because we're just not going to agree on this one. I think Kyler is mighty deserving to be in the Pro Bowl. You just want Brady in there. My thing is his stats are impressive, but look at the roster he has. He has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Rob Gronkowski. I said Antonio Brown twice because I think that's how valuable he is. And if O.J. Howard was healthy, they'd be unstoppable.
He's not. Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's O.J. Howard.
I get he's talented, but it's important to put his talent into context. He's an off-field problem. And the reason why they're going 11-5 as opposed to say they could have gone 12-4, 13-3 is because they had to add him early in the season. They felt pressured to get him into that offense, or else they were afraid he would stink up that locker room that they worked all season to build up.
I wonder why.
You what?
Does it have something to do with your boy saying, I want AB on this team?
Or it could be them saying they want this guy because he's talented and they could win him a Super Bowl. They're going for it. And then they realize, wait, with Antonio Brown on this team, if he doesn't get his looks, then he's going to become toxic. And he could ruin the great thing they have going here. They were 6-2 before they got him. They lost 3 of the next 4 games after they got him.
Because of Brady. I don't care what you tell me. He wouldn't be on the team without Brady. If he did not campaign hard for that man, he wouldn't be on the team. They would be
because he's talented. Would you not want Antonio Brown if it worked? But as soon as they see it doesn't work, they should cut his ass.
That's just not going to happen. You can't just put a talent like AB on there and then just cut him. That's just not going to happen. His reputation alone on the field makes him stay on the team. But he's on that team because of Brady. He needs to stick with that damn decision. It's unbelievable. Let's just move on. We're off topic.
Right. We'll move on. Well, it's not off topic. We're talking about Tom Brady being in the Pro Bowl, which he should. All right. Wide receivers. So we have actually, sorry, we're going to stay on quarterbacks. Who deserved it? Who was on? I believe. So most of these players deserved it.
Yeah.
Except for Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Those guys are top 3 in MVP, in the MVP race. Watson, you could say he didn't deserve it, but he did. You could make a case. Josh Allen is having one of the best seasons for a Bills quarterback ever. He's, like I said, just 3 with 2 games left, just 3 touchdown passes away from the all-time Bills record in touchdown passes set by Jim Kelly. So you can say he deserves it. Who doesn't deserve it?
Who doesn't? I think we answered the question. The only one you think that didn't deserve it was Kyler
Murray. And maybe Watson.
Watson is the one clearly for me that didn't deserve it because I don't see his team in playoff contention, and nor does his stats or record help his team towards winning. So I think if you take him off and you put Ryan Tannehill in, I think it's solid. You can't really remove anybody. Yes, that includes Kyler.
You can remove him for Tom Brady. There's room. All right. All right. We'll move on to wide receivers. So the guys who were in are Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf. There was Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and AJ Brown. So out of this group, so who was snubbed and is not part of this group? Who should be in this group?
It's kind of hard because everybody on that team deserves to be on that team. So it's like the wide receiver position is kind of hard to judge. But based on what you told me earlier, it'd have to be Calvin Ridley, who we say like got snubbed. But I guess you would have to remove Justin Jefferson, but you can't remove him since he's a rookie putting up these numbers. So it's going to be kind of difficult to like move around. Calvin Ridley did not have a better season than DK or D-Hop. So they're staying. Devontae Adams is a top 3 receiver right now, so he's staying. I don't think the only place you could remove him is Justin Jefferson, but that's like, look at their records. Jefferson has the better record, so I guess I would give it to Jefferson. But it's not far off to tell me that Calvin Ridley should have been ahead of Justin Jefferson. AFC, no complaints. Don't know who should be above those 4.
Yeah, I still think Jefferson for Calvin Ridley because I don't really care who you are. If you're a rookie or if you're 40 years old, 43 years old, and playing at GOAT status, if you are good enough to make a Pro Bowl, then I don't think it matters whether you're a rookie or not. Calvin Ridley had the better season, so he deserves to be over Justin Jefferson. I get it. It's impressive. He's a rookie and he's just starting and he has good numbers, but Calvin Ridley has put up better numbers. And in a season where the Atlanta Falcons are struggling this year and they're struggling to play for something to play for, the guy he's playing behind has been hurt in and out, Julio Jones. So it's hard not to put Calvin Ridley in there, and I don't understand why they didn't do it. I get he's a rookie, but that shouldn't be enough.
I'm not giving you points because the guy in front of you struggled. If you're a receiver and you're on the field, you need to produce, and he has produced. I don't care if you're 43 or not, you have to produce. Anyway,
Tom Brady.
As far as Justin Jefferson is concerned, I think the biggest test for them this year, like the biggest one, was the Green Bay Packers. Justin Jefferson performed better than Calvin Ridley did. Calvin Ridley, as far as fantasy-wise, put up a 0. And thanks to that, I beat Brian. And so I'm appreciative of Calvin Ridley for doing that, but Jair Alexander had him on lock 24/7. So I think based off of that game, I would clearly choose Justin Jefferson, who's had more consistent numbers against them.
Yeah, what a season Alexander's had. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I'd have to put Jefferson over Ridley because yes, Ridley had that one game where he did nothing, but Jefferson, if you looked at him, I had Jefferson on fantasy.
Yeah.
And I can say he did have some great like electric numbers, but he was also very up and down. Now, he would have games where he just had a few catches for, like, say, 40 yards, and it would just be an okay game, or just a bad game. He never put up a goose egg, but he was still not that great in some games.
What I would
Calvin Ridley down the board all this season has been good, besides that one game.
Yeah.
So I have to give it to Ridley.
The thing I would say in Justin Jefferson's case, he didn't start until week 3, and that was against Tennessee, I believe. So I give credit when credit's due. He proved that he should have been starting the whole season. but he didn't get that chance until week 3. So week 1 and 2, he didn't get the chance to put up the numbers he should have. So if you judge him based on the numbers he has now, he actually might have more or better numbers than Calvin Ridley. He's done that in only, 12, 13 games?
Yeah, he was playing. It took a few weeks for him to get up to speed with Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. He was playing behind Adam Thielen, and he was just starting out as a rookie, so he was trying to make a name for himself. I believe in the beginning of the year, he was behind in the depth chart to to another veteran receiver.
It was BB Johnson.
Yeah, I wanted to say Laquan Treadwell, but I'm pretty sure he's not on the team anymore.
Gone.
So,
And also, do you believe it's Kirk Cousins also plays a part into that?
Yeah.
All right.
So, who was snubbed? I think I'm gonna go with Calvin Ridley. So, who deserved it out of this group?
The most?
I'd say everybody deserves it. These are all great receivers. They had awesome years. Maybe AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
AJ. They all deserved it. So, who doesn't? So, I guess we'll transition into that.
Tyreek Hill for me deserved it the most because this is I feel like the first year where you feel like he's the top receiver in the league.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like that the last couple of years. You knew he was dangerous, but you didn't feel like he was the top true number one. At best, you felt like he was a gadget player that could go deep on you at any time. This year, he feels like a true number one.
Yeah, he really was. It was this year and last year as well, where you could really see he transitioned into more than just a deep threat that he was in recent years before that, where he was where Tyreek Hill was either like that one player if he wasn't getting that one massive play or a couple, then he wasn't doing anything. He could do a lot more than just the deep ball. And he's involved a lot more, so I agree on that. He's developed into that one player. Another player I look at is Davante Adams. He after a season where he was out for a few games, and he didn't quite have the repeat year that he did in 2018. He's had a better year than both of those years. This is a career year for him, and it's one of those years where he's getting so much attention in the secondary that a player like Robert Tonyan is left wide open, and Aaron Rodgers is hucking the ball up to him. Alan Lazard is left open. Valdez-Scantling. The whole offense almost, like, you want to talk about reasons why that team is so good this year. Davante Adams is having a breakout. I thought 2018 was his breakout year, but this year he's amazing this year.
I think he's had a touchdown in 8 straight games.
Yeah, I believe that was snapped.
Yeah,
past game.
I don't think he got one against Carolina, but still, a touchdown in 8 straight games is impressive.
It's unbelievable. So we'll move on to running backs. So we have Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and Josh Jacobs. So out of this group, so who should be in this group? Who was snubbed?
James Robinson.
100%.
100%. This man is third in rushing, and yet he's not on the Pro Bowl team. I believe he's behind Derrick Henry, and I can't remember the other person's name off the top. I think it's Dalvin Cook. I think it's Dalvin Cook and Henry that are ahead of him. And he's doing that as an undrafted rookie. He wasn't even supposed to make the team, and he's doing this. So the least you can do is give him his spot and give it. And Josh Jacobs is having a down year by what I thought coming in. So I think Josh Jacobs should be off. I think James Robinson should be on.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. It should be absolutely James Robinson over Josh Jacobs 100%. I thought Jacobs had a down year this year. I know he racked up some rushing yards, but he didn't score as many touchdowns as I thought he would. He wasn't involved in the passing game as much as he said he was going to be. He said he was going to improve on that. He really didn't. A little bit, but not quite as much. And James Robinson was kind of he had a great rookie season as an undrafted rookie. Now I get we were talking about earlier with wide receivers, and Jefferson was a rookie. This guy was an undrafted rookie, and he was putting up numbers like this on a terrible Jaguars team.
Terrible.
And he was one of the lead rushers in the league, and he gets snubbed. Unbelievable. I don't get it. I don't get it. How did Jacobs get it over him? It's absolutely popularity. He's just the name that jumps out to you. You know? So, who deserved it? So we said. So who deserves it? Absolutely. Cook, Kamara, 100%.
Yep.
Henry, 100%.
Yeah.
We have Aaron Jones.
I think he's deserving, but I don't think he's more deserving than James Robinson. But he's in the AFC, and for some reason Nick Chubb got in, and Josh Jacobs got in over him. So it's like,
See, what I will say for Nick Chubb is he missed some games, but he's still one of the lead rushers, and that's impressive to me. But Josh Jacobs has played all season for the most part, and he's done. He hasn't been anything too special. He's been okay, but nothing like what James Robinson did. So yeah, we're pretty pissed about that. So who doesn't deserve it? I think we can all point at Josh Jacobs and possibly Nick Chubb, but that's just about it with him. All right, so we're gonna move on to tight ends. So T.J. Hawkinson, Evan Engram, Travis Kelce, and Darren Waller. Yeah. So looking at the NFC tight ends, you would think there has to be better tight ends out there. But then if you look, there's nothing out there. The tight end position blows, and it's really bad. They need to fix that.
Hopefully they do draft a tight end in the NFC. I don't care who does it. I just need someone to do it. Because holy crap, it's bad. If Evan Ingram's making the Pro Bowl, we have an issue here.
We do. I thought it was going to be – you could make a case for Gronkowski, but the only thing he has more than him this year is in touchdowns. He has more – Engram has more receptions. He has more yards. And I like Engram. He's an okay player, just not a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
So NFC tight ends, do better next year. I like Hawkinson. I think he's deserving. But Engram, absolutely not. But not because he's not good enough, but because there's nobody else out there who's good enough. So
I think Robert Tonyan should have been in over Evan Engram, but you kept on telling me it's because of Aaron Rodgers. I'm telling you, I don't care who it's because his numbers are better than Evan Ingram's. So you can't tell me that Evan Engram deserves it over Robert Tonyan this year.
Right, but like what we were talking about before, Davante Adams has drawn so much attention from opposing secondaries that it leaves Tonyan open all the time. So I really don't find his numbers all that impressive.
Yeah,
I would say if Davante Adams wasn't there and he was putting up numbers like that, I know you can't hold that against him, but you can a little bit be like, well, that's the reason. I'd say Davante Adams is the reason why Tonyan put up a lot of points. And I know he was taking advantage of what he had, and I give him credit for that. But it wasn't because of his skill set. It was more because Davante Adams is so good that defenses are putting so much focus on him. So who deserved it? You say Robert. So we can easily go to the AFC and say Kelce and Waller 100% deserved it. 100. Unbelievable players they were this year.
Yep. Can't argue.
So who doesn't deserve it? I think we can all point at who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Evan Engram does not deserve it.
I'm sorry.
But then again,
nah.
Who can you put in over him?
A travesty this year.
It has to be better next year. They do better, NFC. Okay, so we're gonna move on to cornerbacks. So Jalen Ramsey, Jair Alexander, as we were talking about earlier, Marshawn Lattimore, James Bradbury, Marlon Humphrey, Stephon Gilmore, and also Tre'Davious White and Xavier Howard. So who was snubbed? Who should be in this group?
J.C. Jackson, but believe me, I'd take him over Stephon Gilmore this year. I'd want J.C. Jackson more so than I want Stephon Gilmore. And besides, he's out anyway, so if the Pro Bowl were to happen, Gilly wouldn't be playing. Bump and run Gilmore would be out.
Yeah, I gotta say, I love Stephon Gilmore, and he has had a Pro Bowl caliber season.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say this guy, J.C. Jackson, his teammate has been better. Not only better, but he's been in the conversation to be in the pro an all pro, and he got snubbed for being a Pro Bowler. So that says something. But you can't put in the other guys over him. Marlon Humphrey, Tre'Davious White, Xavier Howard. You can't put him in over those guys. They're just too good.
Too good.
So Alexander is having an amazing year. Bradbury is having a career year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd only say Marshawn Lattimore does not deserve it. And I'd say not Kyler Murray, Kyle Fuller or Jalen Johnson, one of those two in Chicago who have been amazing. I believe they should be in over Lattimore because Lattimore, as great as he has been over his career, he's not been as good as he usually is. And I think Kyle Fuller and Jalen Johnson are both having good years. So I think they should have had it over Lattimore. So let's go into who deserved it. So Ramsey, Alexander, Bradbury, Humphrey, White, Howard, they all deserved it.
All deserved it. Gilmore, not as much, but he is who he is. I think injuries and the fact that he won't be playing the rest of the year does come into effect, but nothing you can do.
Exactly. That's
a tough group to break into. That is a very tough group.
I will say we talk about how the tight end position has sucked this year. The cornerback position, cornerback position is damn good this year.
Yep.
Very good. So, who doesn't deserve it? I'd look at Lattimore. He doesn't deserve it.
But who in the NFC would you put in over him?
Either Kyler Murray or
not Murray.
Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller or Jalen Johnson.
Okay. I don't really have any arguments towards that, but I understand.
Okay. So we're going to transition to our fifth and final segment. The Steelers lose to the Bengals in a heartbreaker, losing their third straight game. And don't look now, but with their remaining schedule being the Colts and the Browns, they're in serious danger of losing out. And this could be one of the bigger collapses in not only NFL history, but possibly sports history, I believe.
This
start 11-0.
Yeah, and then finish 0-5. That's so. Listen up, Steelers. I need you to just win one game. I don't care which one you win. I just need you to win one game. Don't just do it for you. Do it for us. I don't care if you beat Cleveland or Indianapolis. I prefer Indianapolis, but I don't care if it's Indy. I just need you to win one just so we can make the playoffs. That's all you got to do. It's simple. Don't screw this up. Don't be like Juju on TikTok. Just play Steelers football and get the job done. I don't care about anything else. Just show up on the field and give me this win. I don't care how bad Big Ben looks. I don't care how many drop passes Eric Ebron has. I don't care how Juju looks in the middle of the field. I don't care how bad Chase Claypool has looked since, I don't know, Jacksonville. I don't care. I just need y'all to win and do it one of those 2 games.
See, I will say, as for somebody who defended them a couple weeks ago, saying this team, yeah, they're 11-1, but like nobody thought they were going to go undefeated. They have an underrated roster, but looking at it now, every one of those underrated players is just, they're not only just like not that good, but they're still also soft. Just Juju Smith-Schuster does not care. All he wants to do is do TikTok dances on every team logo that he faces.
And that kills him every time because now everybody's like, all right, we need to stop him.
Exactly.
And I didn't realize this now. He has more TikToks, 95, than he has yards in the game, 93. I didn't think that was true. That's true. This guy this year.
It's just a team that's just top to bottom not good enough. Their defense is solid, but it's not good enough to carry this offense. Ben Roethlisberger he's been good on paper, but he's kind of old and he turns it over in meaningful times. You know, their wide receiving trio, it's just, yeah, they have 3 good players, but they don't have that one guy. You were right. Yes. I was wrong. They don't have that one guy. Ebron isn't all that.
Yeah.
James Conner hasn't been healthy, and nor has he been that factor who is a key contributor to being the reason why they're 11-0. The reason they went 11-0 was their schedule and some luck. That's about it. Now that we're seeing it.
I swear to you, if Lamar was healthy and was off the COVID list, the Ravens would have won that game, and I would have been so happy. But he got on COVID. They went. Half the team was on COVID, and they still struggled against the Ravens. That's when I knew they were sus. And then they lost to the Washington football team. They don't even have a name, and they lost to them. Then they lost to the Bills. I expected that, but it wasn't even close. And now they lose to the Bengals, who had 2 wins on this season. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so these are 2 games that they should have won. Against the Washington FT and the Bengals, who were both not that good of teams. If they are as good or anywhere near as good as their record said it was, they would have blown those teams out and they'd be 14-1 right now. They're not. They're 11-3.
In the span of 3 weeks, they went from the 1st seed to the 3rd seed. They need to get their act together.
It's really bad.
It's really rough. I need them to win a game. I don't care which game they win. Just win a game.
So I'm sure if the Ravens win out, that something will go right and they'll make the playoffs. Like 11, I can't see 11-5 not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think they're going to make it.
Everybody else is 11-5. It won't.
So as long as they win out, that's just a side note.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So that'll do it for us tonight. So why don't you check out our YouTube channel, the Fumblerooski Podcast, and happy holidays.